Hi, I'm Cinnamon Cooney, your art sherpa, and today I'm going to show you how to create fur with cheap art materials. A lot of times people think that you've got to have really the most expensive stuff in the world or the top most engineered things. And while if you know me, you know I do love my great tools, I think the most important thing to realize is that in art, if there's a will, there's always a way to have a great time and a great creative experience. So I'm going to show you how you can make awesome fur with inexpensive art materials today. Get your paint, get your brushes, come back and meet me at the easel right now. We're going to make some art and save some money. So let's get started on how we can do fur with more economic artist materials. So over here I have some very inexpensive brushes. You can find these at places like Ross and at Tuesday Morning. I have some student grade paint. I have Liquitex Basics. I have the black, the burnt umber. I have their cad orange hue and their titanium white. Let's just fur into it. Okay. So first, I'm going to get this a little bit wet and drag it off, but because this has bristles in it, I'm going to be sure that anytime I rinse or put any moisture on it, I take a little bit off so it doesn't become too soft and too mushy. And I'm going to take my brown to my black, little bit of water. You don't want to use very much water with beginner artist materials. It's better to use less. I'm going to come here and put in my first layer. I'm just going to be brushing this sort of curved stroke down. This is going to be the first layer of my natural fur that I'm painting. I'm just going to get that on real easily. You're going to see that that's streaky, but you know, honestly guys, in fur, sometimes that's just to your benefit. So the scratchiness of the brush and the streaking of the paint, kind of working out for us. But to really make this work, we've got to dry this real quick for another layer. Okay, so I really hope you're doing this with me at home, and if you are, you might be noticing that your paint kind of changes color as it dries and gets a little streakier, but that's okay because we're going to lean into that. We're going to make it a feature, not a problem. So I'm going to get my brush again, and I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to put in my values. And my top value, I'm going to take a little bit of my black over to my brown and make it even more chocolatey, like you're seeing right here. And I'm going to come to the top, and I'm going to brush this down. And you can see the second coat really adds to the richness of the paint. It's really helping, right? So we're just pulling that down. We have that to there. I'm just going to get my black paint. I'm really not going to add that much water to this because, again, that's going to over thin my paint and make it too much of a stain, and I want all the pigment that they gave me. I want it all on my canvas. Sometimes when we're painting with more economic paints, it's important to remember you want all the pigment in your canvas. You cannot sacrifice any to the water jar. So you're going to be like rinsing out, but keeping it all right here where it belongs. Right? So now we have a nice blend, and it goes together really well. And because it's a bit of a glaze, it actually looks really good. I'm going to rinse out my brush. I'm going to be sure I dry it off with a towel so it doesn't get too soft, because sometimes these economic bristle brushes will get real soft. Believe it or not, I'm going to dry this again one more time for the next layer. Okay, now when we're painting fur, we want to put in our shape and flow of the fur. We're not so much painting hairs as we're painting clumps and directionality of fur, so we're definitely going to still do this here. And I'm going to get my next brush and start putting that in. So for my next layer of fur that I'm going to be putting in, I'm going to go ahead and rinse this out, right? Make sure there's nothing in it. I'm going to towel it off so it's not getting soft. I don't really want to add any water to my paint because I'm trying to keep all my pigment. I'm going to be greedy with my pigment. When you're painting with this stuff, you want to be very greedy with your pigment. I'm going to load up my brush. I'm mixing the orange and the brown. It's going to create a really nice warm color. And then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to start brushing the shape of the fur. Now the fact that I have this nice bristle brush, it's going to make this really easy work for me. My brush stroke is real light. And the end of those strokes being kind of soft like that, that's actually good for me. All right, so let's come here and get another little layer. Maybe as it comes down, the fur is getting longer. Where you see it sort of end, I like to just commit to what I've got going on if I'm not using a reference photo. So I'm just going to commit to the flow of the fur as it's happening. One of the things that's different than maybe when I paint with some of my other brushes is this brush has a lot of give to it. So I've just got to push maybe a little bit, but I don't want to be pressing way down like that, right? I just want to be lightly going, but still making sure that the bristles are connecting. So that's something to, know. I'm loading up. It's not climbing up into my ferrule though, right? I'm not getting any water because I'm being greedy with my pigment. Hoarding it all from my canvas. And I'm just creating the clumps or the shapes of the hair, right, that this wonderful wild beast would have. And you can see the orange really helps it pop against the black with this brown. It really picks it up. The burnt umber would just be too neutral. We wouldn't even see. And we come here, we're just let the stroke finish with this raw edge, and that's looking pretty good. I'm going to rinse this out. Right? Rinse, rinse, rinse. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get my next layer going. So I'm going to load up with more orange, barely touching my brown. It's just a little more orange. And I'm going to just kiss a little of the hairs here with this. Not too much, just making sure that we're seeing them, that they have highlights, right? That we're aware of them. It just takes a few more layers sometimes with, paints that don't have as heavy as a pigment load. But that just means you get to spend more time with your canvas, so bonus there, right? And if you know what to expect, it's not frustrating. So now I have that nice kind of form you're starting to see pull out of the fur. I'm going to rinse this out. Right, and the next one that I'm going to do is I'm going to take my brown into my black and get this sort of warm brownish black, but I'm going to add some white to it. See? You can kind of see how my brush is all flailed out. Am I upset about that? No, it's a feature. So I'm going to come over here and brush this next layer, following the shapes that I've created of my fur. Getting a little white. Just pulling this in, committing to the clumps, right? You commit to the clumps of the fur and the shapes that they have. And you can see that I've left shadows there, so now it's starting to have some depth and dimension. I'm going to finish off with my detail. In my teaching, I talk a lot about detail rounds. I have some preferences, but what I'll say is you just want them to come to a nice point. So I'm going to get this brush wet, and I know we don't normally use water, but we need to thin our white a good little bit. You can add a little black to this so it's not such a bright white, but you want it to be pretty bright. Right? Now let's come here to the edge of each of these little areas, catching this sort of like guard hairs that would be maybe lighter at the tip, right? Defining the confines, maybe of some of these clumps that we've got going that we committed to and painted in. So my feeling on this is, you want to definitely paint, because that really helps one feel relaxed and better, but we all have budgets and you never want to feel bad about your budget. There's a way to do everything. Every media, every tool has a feature, has a benefit, where it kind of like maybe works out for you. Sometimes I've painted with coffee. You can paint with anything. It's just about understanding the rules. I really got to tell you, like, I'm so light with my pressure here to get this brush to give me these fine lines. That's all that's happening. Just pulling these in. Making those details. And then I'm going to rinse my brush out. So here I have painted some sort of very natural animal fur. I've done it with super economic materials, and I still got a good result. And I guess my takeaway from this is that all paint is real paint, and you figure out what your paint is good at and where it struggles, and you make sure that you always feature your best foot with that paint. So if it does something where it's like a really great glaze, then lean into it. If it's light on its pigment, don't give any of that pigment to the water jar. Hoard it all for yourself in your canvas. In art, everything in the end can always be okay. And in art, there is literally always a way. Hope you painted along with me at home so you can see how you can actually have this skill in your art box today. Be good to yourselves, be good to each other, and I want to see you at the easel really soon. Bye-bye.